In the late 1800s, various splinter groups of Joseph Smith's original church started fighting over a plot of land in Missouri that Joseph had said would be the site of a temple. The case was eventually taken to court, where the key issue was whether the reorganized LDS Church was the rightful successor to Joseph's church. The Utah LDS Church threw everything they had into the court battle to prove that they were the rightful successor, and a principal issue was whether Joseph Smith had been a polygamist. The RLDS Church won the case, which was later thrown out on a technicality. When the topic of the temple lot case comes up, apologists for the LDS Church are quick to point out that until recently, only edited, or as they say, heavily edited, versions have been available, and from the reorganized LDS Church, just to make sure that none of their audience trusts them. But when it comes to what's actually in the real transcripts, although they boast that the LDS Church has published them, they leave you to wander through the disorganized 1,600-plus pages on your own. It's much easier to just take the apologist's word that it all supports the church's claims, right? Well, dear viewer, I think that you deserve better. When I was researching for my episode on the myth of Louisa Beeman, I came across the temple lot testimony of her brother-in-law, Joseph Noble. It was too good not to share. I decided to try something different for this one. I recorded myself reading the highlights from the first day, doing different voices as well as I'm able for the different participants. You can follow along as I scroll through. Keep in mind that although Noble is 82 years old, he is the only source for Joseph being married to Louisa Beaman. We start on the first day of Noble's testimony, Monday the 21st of March, 1892. I will ask you to say to the reporter, Mr. Noble, what do you know, if anything, about the doctrine of plural marriage, sometimes or commonly called polygamy, being taught or practiced in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints before the death of Joseph Smith the prophet? Counsel for the plaintiff objects to the question. Answer the question if you can. Please put the question again. I asked you to state to the reporter what do you know, if anything, about the doctrine of plural marriage, commonly called polygamy, being taught or practiced in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of which you were and are a member, at Nauvoo, during the life of Joseph Smith the prophet. Yes, sir, it was taught by Joseph Smith. Counsel for the plaintiff moves the court to exclude the answer of the witness. I don't feel very well, for I have taken cold. It is about half and half, I think. State to the reporter any circumstance or time or place where the principle of plural marriage was taught. Counsel for the plaintiff objects. Where the doctrine of plural marriage was taught at Nauvoo before the death of Joseph Smith? Counsel for the plaintiff objects. What is that? Do you understand the question? Yes, sir. Well, you may answer it. Well, he objects. Never mind his objection, but just answer the question as soon as he gets through with his objection. Give him time to make his objection and then go ahead and answer the question. Well, it was at my house. Counsel for the plaintiff objects. Who taught the doctrine of plural marriage at your house? Counsel for the plaintiff objects. Joseph Smith the prophet did. State now what you know further in regard to this, to his teaching or practicing the doctrine of plural marriage. Counsel for the plaintiff objects. Please state the question again. State what you know, if anything further, in regard to his teaching or practicing that principle of plural marriage. Counsel for the plaintiff objects. I feel so feeble, I can hardly answer these questions. Please put the question again. I asked you to state to the reporter what you knew in regard to Joseph's teaching or practicing the doctrine of plural marriage during his lifetime there in Nauvoo. What do you know about that, further than what you have stated? Well, he taught it in my house and practiced it also. Counsel for the plaintiff moves the court to exclude the answer of the witness. Was anyone present at the time that Joseph Smith taught the principle of plural marriage that you refer to? Counsel for the plaintiff objects. Yes, sir. Who was present at the time he taught that principle? My wife's sister. Who was that? Counsel for the plaintiff objects. Louisa Beeman. Was there any others? Counsel for the plaintiff objects. Yes, sir. There was some of my own family there, but they were young at that time. Counsel for the plaintiff moves the court to exclude from the record. All the answers bearing on the question. Were you ever present when anyone was married under this plural marriage doctrine as taught by Joseph Smith? Counsel for the plaintiff objects. Yes, sir. Well, state the circumstances. Counsel for the plaintiff objects. Please read that. Mr. Hall asked you to state the circumstances under which you were present and saw anyone married under the operations of this plural marriage doctrine or principle, as I understand it.
It bothers me to call up these things.
In the giving of his testimony, this witness hesitates a great deal and gives evidence of being ill.
I feel so feeble. I was present one time and performed the marriage ceremony, giving him my wife's sister.
Counsel for the plaintiff moves the court to exclude from the record the answer of the witness. Who did you marry?
Louisa Beeman to the prophet.
Counsel for the plaintiff objects. You married Louisa Beeman to the prophet Joseph Smith? Counsel for the plaintiff objects. By Mr. Campbell. Might we not have some agreement about these objections, by which it would appear on record that it was agreed that all objections might be made at the trial of this case, and save the time and expense of incorporating them into the record? Mr. Kelly. I think not. We prefer to make our objections as we go along, and then we will know we have them. You married Louisa Beaman to the prophet Joseph Smith?
Yes, sir.
About what year was this? Counsel for the plaintiff objects.
In 41, or close to it. Now, that is my best recollection.
When did the prophet Joseph Smith first teach you that doctrine? Counsel for the plaintiff objects.
He taught me that doctrine in 40. It was in 40 or about that time. That's my best recollection.
Where were you living when you were first taught the doctrine? Counsel for the plaintiff objects.
I was living in Montrose in Lee County, Iowa, right across the river opposite Nauvoo.
Do you know whether Joseph Smith ever lived any with Louisa Beaman as his wife? Counsel for the plaintiff objects.
Yes, sir.
You may state how you know it. Counsel for the plaintiff objects.
I know it, for I saw him in bed with her.
Well, that is all. You may take the witness.
I can't say.
Was your wife there?
Yes, sir.
Was your daughter there?
Yes, sir.
And your wife's sister?
Yes, sir.
What was her age?
My daughter was, I believe she told me that she was 9 years old at that time.
Well, what do you say about her age?
About what?
Yes, sir, about that and nothing else.
Well, that was it.
Was your wife's sister married then?
I don't know. That's a pretty hard thing to tell.
Well, was she baptized then? You all were baptized then?
Pretty near all were. He baptized a good many.
Well, he baptized the whole crowd, didn't he?
Well, I can't say that he did.
Did you not just say that he did?
Well, I don't know that he did. There might have been some that he did not.
Well, he baptized over 100 that day, didn't he?
Well, I don't know that it was as many as that.
Well, 50 was it? Counsel for the defendant objects. Was that sister of your wife's you referred to, Louisa Beeman, there? What is that? What do you say to that? Witness hesitates a great deal in answering nearly every question that is asked him.
I don't know whether she was then or was not.
Well, she was baptized there that day, wasn't she?
I could not say whether she was or not.
Well, was she there at all?
Yes, sir, she was there.
Well, do you know that she was there?
Yes, sir, I am confident she was there.
How old was she?
I can't tell.
She was about 7 years old, was she not? Counsel for the defendant objects.
7?
Yes, sir. What do you think about her age? Counsel for the defendant objects.
It's pretty hard to remember people's ages in that way. I know it is hard with me to do it.
All right, we'll skip down a bit, go to question 104. Starts getting good again. Did the church raise any funds there to purchase lands for the church in Missouri?
I can't tell you.
You do not know anything about that? Do you say that you do not know anything about it?
Well, I don't. I can't particularize things. There may have been money sent out to Missouri for all I know, but I can't particularize these things now.
Don't you know that there was money contributed by the members of the church there, at Kirtland, for the purpose of raising a fund to be sent out to Missouri to purchase lands for the church? Counsel for the defendant objects.
What is the question?
Don't you know that there was money contributed by the members of the church where you were living at Kirtland for the purpose of purchasing lands in Missouri for the church? Counsel for the defendant objects.
I don't know about these things. I have heard sounds, but I can't put them into shape.
You heard sounds there at that time, did you?
I have heard these things that I can't call up now. I can't put it in shape.
You did not pay anything for that purpose, did you?
No, sir, I believe not. Well, do you know whether you did or not? I can't tell you, sir. You do not know a member of this church here in Salt Lake City or in Utah Territory that did, do you? Counsel for the defendant objects. Answer the question. I don't know now. My head is in such a poor condition that I will be dogged if I can remember. I don't know anything, it seems. You don't know anything this morning, you say? I don't know a great deal, that is sure, whether this morning or any other. You don't know much this morning, is that what you say? This morning? I don't know much and never did. You don't know much this morning, only about polygamy and Joseph Smith's connection with it, and you know all about that? Well, that forces it upon me more particularly. Is it because you have been connected with that crime, with the commission of that crime yourself? Yes, sir, I expect so. You know all about polygamy? I expect I do. And your conscience is gnawing at you? Yes, sir. It has a terrible gnawing fit on it this morning. Counsel for the defendants objects. To the last 10 questions. You feel very bad over it, don't you? Over what? Is it not a fact that you feel very bad over your sins in connection with polygamy? Not much, thank you. Well, you went to Jackson County, Missouri, didn't you? From Kirtland? No, sir. You did not? No, sir. Well, you went to Far West, didn't you? Yes, sir. What time did you go there? I don't know as I can tell the time. Well, was it in 37? I am under the impression that it was in 38. You think it was in 1838 that you went to Far West? Yes, sir. Did you attend a conference in Far West in 1838? Let me see whether I did or not. I believe not. I think not. I think I did not make much of a stay there. You did not make much of a stay there? No, sir. For I think it was almost the time of our exodus that I went up there, and I had to go away in a short time, so we didn't get much of a chance to stay there. Were you not an officer of the church at that time? How's that? I asked you if you were an officer in the church at that time. Witness does not answer. Well, go on and answer the question, for the judgment day is coming, and it soon may be here. Well, I guess so. And I want to get through by that time. So do I. Let the record show, Mr. Reporter, that the witness takes from 5 to 10 minutes to answer a question. I cut that part out, by the way. No sense in having all that time. I made but a very short stop there. Where? At Far West. I did not ask you anything about that. I asked you if you were an officer in the church at the time you came to Missouri. Now you know whether you were or not, and it should not take you 10 or 15 minutes to answer the question either. After waiting several minutes, the witness not having answered, counsel says, Were you an elder or priest or deacon, or what were you? Oh, wait a little. I'm trying to call it up, for I can hardly tell. Were you anything at all? It was hardly anything, I guess. Let the record show that this witness says he was hardly anything. Then you say in 1838 you were not an officer in the church, do you? In 1838, let me see. By Mr. Campbell. If it is possible, I would like to have the record also show Mr. Kelly's tone of voice and manner. By Mr. Kelly. Well, the reporter will get it down. I know that reporter, and he will get it down right. And then, on the side, the reporter wrote, in handwriting, That you can depend on. Sorry. The reporter, he will get that down right. I am sure that the witness's action on the stand justifies it. I thought to talk loud, for this witness is hard of hearing. Are you not hard of hearing, Mr. Noble? Yes, sir. I am tolerably hard of hearing now. You say that you are hard of hearing now? Do you mean that this is not your normal condition? No, sir. I can't hear very well now. I can't hear as well as I once could. I'm just about half sick, and that is the honest fact about it. You had better adjourn this and let me go until another time. We will finish the cross-examination now. You won't get any sicker on account of your crimes. Mr. Campbell, let the record show that the defendant objects to the manner of the attorney cross-examining this witness. Mr. Kelly, do you recollect whether or not you were an officer in the church in 1838? I have forgotten about all that I ever did know, actually, with regard to dates. What time did you leave Far West, Missouri? Well, my recollection is that we left there in 39, didn't we? Well, you were the witness. Well, it is my recollection that we came out of there in 39. I think that's when we came out of there. Who came out with you? What was that? Who came out with you? Well, that is something I'm trying to call up. Well, if you can't recollect the names of anybody that came out with you, I will ask you what time you arrived at the Mississippi on your way out. Well, now it is considerable trouble to tell these dates. Well, I want to know these things I am asking you, or I would not ask you. Do you recollect the time that you arrived at the Mississippi River on your way from Far West? I can't remember. Well, seeing you cannot recollect the other things, I will ask you what place you stopped at in the state of Illinois. What is that? What place did you stop at in the state of Illinois when you first came out of Missouri after leaving Far West? We stopped at Nauvoo. That was the first place you stopped at? Yes, sir. It was called Commerce then. You did not stop at any place after you came out of Missouri until you got to Commerce, which was afterwards called Nauvoo? No, sir. Yes, we did too. We stopped at Quincy a little while. How long did you stay at Quincy? I drove the team that came out when I did, and took Hiram Smith up to Commerce. Hiram Smith came out of Missouri with you? Yes, sir. He came out with the crowd. He came out with the outfit that came out of Missouri? Yes, sir. With the crowd, I guess. Joseph Smith went out with the crowd too? Yes, sir. And you are sure about that, are you? Hold on, let me see. Wasn't he in jail then? Well, I don't know anything about it, and that is the reason I am asking you about it. You said that Hiram and Joseph Smith came out with the crowd? Well, I recollect moving Hiram up to Commerce, but I suppose Joseph was in jail about this time. Well, what do you say about Hiram being in jail too? I can't say. Now, don't you know that neither of them were with you when you left Missouri? I do know, by George. By who? Oh, don't take me up too quick. I said I did know, by George. That is an expression of mine. Yes, they were in jail. I remember that now. They were in jail? Yes, sir, but I remember after they got out, Hiram came to Quincy, and I remember taking him down to Commerce with my team. Are you an elder in the church now? Yes, sir. And in good standing? Well, I don't know hardly. I could hardly tell. Well, what is your best recollection now about Joseph and Hiram coming out of Missouri with you? No, sir. Don't you know that they did not come, neither of them? That is what I said. I remember that they were in jail. You remember that they were in jail at the time? Yes, sir. I believe so. I did not see them there, but I believe they were. After you left Missouri, you went over to Illinois and stopped at Quincy a month or two, did you not? Yes, sir. We stopped there, but I don't think it was that long. What is that? I say I guess it was not so long as that. Well, then you went down to Commerce, that was afterwards called Nauvoo. Yes, sir. Well, now, you lived in Lee County across the river from Nauvoo for a while, and did not go over to Nauvoo to live right away? Yes, sir. First I will ask you, what was the law of the church on marriage at that time? What time? Up to the time you got to Quincy. The law of the church? Yes, sir, the law of the church. Was it polygamy? Answer the question. My head is so bad I can't think of anything. Well, you married people before that, didn't you? Before that? What is that? You married people before that time, did you not? As an elder in the church, you had married people before that, hadn't you? You had performed the marriage ceremony before that time, hadn't you, by virtue of your being an elder in the church? Not at the time that we came out. Not at that time, before I landed in Iowa. What was the law of the church on marriage when you were at Quincy, Illinois? I can't tell you. Do you say that you cannot tell me? I can't tell you. My head is so bad. Was there any law at all? I guess not. I can't tell what it was. It has been so long ago, and my head hurts so. Don't you know there was a law? I can't tell you. If there was any, you don't know anything about it. Is that what you mean to tell me? By the examiner. Mr. Noble, do you feel too ill to go on with this examination? I do. Well, it is apparent that there is something wrong with this witness, so far as I am able to judge. I will excuse him until tomorrow morning at the hour of 9:30, at which time you will be here. Spoiler alert, he doesn't show up.
So there you have the highlights of the first day. Let's review. Noble can't remember whether he was ever an officer in the church. Thought that he left Missouri with Joseph and Hiram, who were in jail at that time. Took 5 to 10 minutes to answer simple questions. Claims that he saw Joseph in bed together with his sister-in-law. Admits that he can't remember dates anymore, except, as the attorney noted, when it comes to Joseph Smith and polygamy. You can decide for yourself whether this testimony hurts or helps LDS polygamy claims. I will link to the entire transcript down in the comments so you can look for yourself. This is I Believe Joseph, and I will be back with part 2 in another video.